Hello and welcome back to the KCC channel. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today, I've got a bunch of stories for you from the Malicious Compliance subreddit. Before we start, make sure to check out my website, CanadianRob.com, where you can get your own 3D printed Carmen Chameleon complete with cookies. On to the stories, let's jump right in. This story comes to us from Historical Emu 4225. Stop being nice and helpful. Do your job as directed. Work as an EHS person for a manufacturing and repair company. I deal with OSHA inspections, chemical management, and spill reporting. I do a lot of walk around and fix a lot of issues. Floor signs, door signs, blocked panels, trash, and other safety issues. I put in service requests for them to be fixed. Due to being sick, I got behind on my tasks. Not by much, but enough I had to slow down to get them done. Work a little overtime. Had a doctor's note for breathing issues and that I won't be at 100% for a while. Well, had my review for my position. Being too nice, helping outside of my position, not finishing jobs as directed. I needed to do my job as directed. My raise and bonus was not given this year for that. Okay, so I requested a job description and tasks. When I had them in an email, I said I would only be doing them because of my contract and that's it. Confirmation email 10 minutes later for it. 3 months down the line, we have our big audit. My side of EHS of the department was given a 95 of 100. Very good score. I was docked 5 on the issue with the chemical management. We had 3 drums get misplaced for about a month. This is a huge facility, 4 different buildings at 400 to 500,000 square feet. So I took my issues and went about my day. They have some point system for the audit. 1 week later, we had a meeting about the audit. Rest of EHS ended up with a 79 to 82 for the audit. They had 19 floor and wall signs that had been damaged, 10 blocked panels, 2 mislabeled waste bins, 3 waste bins without labels, and many more. In my company, you have 2 main groups, green badge full-time and yellow badge contractors. I am contracted and have been the past 6 years. The ones in charge of the inspections that had issues are full employees. They noticed I stopped putting in the maintenance request to have stuff fixed. I ended up telling them that I had my review and was told being too nice, helpful, and to do my job as directed. I gave the head of the department, his company manager, and the other rep that had come in the emails. My direct boss tried to say he did not mean that, but the email showed what I was to do. I was taken aside with my direct boss and the main EHS department bosses and my contracted company rep. Talked to about expanding my scope of work back to reporting and maintenance requests. I said if my bonus and raise from last year are given and an adequate raise for my new responsibilities are given, then I would consider it. They complied with my request and gave me more on my bonus because of getting the highest score on the audit. The EHS team I work for at my facility is 9 people. We had 5 new by the end of the month. I guess Malicious Compliance worked in my favor. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Smoothman Miguel. It says, never read one of these where corporate realizes they effed up and actually rectifies the issue. Bravo. You know, thinking about all the malicious compliance stories I've done on this channel, that's actually very true. Corporate really doesn't realize that they effed up. It just keeps going the same way because they're collecting their paychecks up at that executive level and they generally don't give a crap what's going on below them. So it's very refreshing to see a company that realizes when they screw up and rectify the issue. OSHA is something you really don't want to mess with, and OP, I think the company will be in better hands with you doing those things again. Glad to see you're getting paid what you deserve for it though. This story comes to us from Phantom Father 88. You want a meeting? Fine. I was looking for a digital signage company for work, and with one of the companies, the only way to get information was to create an account, which I did. I played with their demo and talked to the sales department and came to the conclusion that they weren't a good fit based on their offering, and the fact that they marked up their media playing device 2 times while telling me there wasn't any discount for 20 because they sell them at cost. When you can look up the retail cost of a streaming device online, you really shouldn't lie. In any case, I went with a different company, very happy with, by the way. I closed my account, unsubscribed, and told them I'm not interested. But every 2 or 3 weeks, I'd get an email from sales telling me about the product and wanting to set up a Zoom call to discuss my project. I'd reply stop and click on the unsubscribe button at the bottom of their emails, but they still kept coming. I composed a separate email directly to the sender telling them I'm no longer interested and to remove me from the list, which went unanswered. Calling their very hard to find main number would only bring me to an answering service which promised to pass along my complaint. A couple of times, I even got a response promising me they'd take care of it, and yet, filing a complaint with whatever government agency is supposed to help with this kind of spamming doesn't do anything. After spending 20 minutes filling out their forms, it basically reads, no direct action will happen because of this complaint, but if we receive a substantial amount, we might look into it. But on the rare occasions I did speak to a live person for the company, I'd give them the filing number and tell them I've asked multiple times to be removed. So after all that, I resorted to my basic strategy, which if you've read my other posts, you already know what's coming. I received another email from sales with the usual link to request more information, so I clicked it. I filled out the form with the exact same information they already had. I answered their questions about how many displays, 100 plus was the maximum, so I chose that. Project timeline, immediate. Decision maker, me, etc. I received a response within minutes, wanting to set up a Zoom meeting with their sales team to discuss my project and what they could do to help and answer any questions I had. I accepted their offer and set up the meeting. Mind you, this is the same exact email I was sending my unsubscribe request to. So the meeting finally came, and since it was a Zoom meeting, I got to see their faces. I let them introduce themselves, ask my role in the company, IT director, go through their sales pitches, company history, etc. When they finally got around to asking me what questions I had, I said, "How do I get you to stop sending me emails?" The look of confusion on their face was priceless, along with the stuttering and squirming as I explained my history of trying to get them to stop sending me sales emails. After a while, they promised to get me removed, which I'd heard before. So I warned them that I would do this same thing to every single email I receive, and if you stop falling for it with my current email, I will use different emails just to cause you more pain. Amazingly, I haven't received one email since that day. I'm batting 1000 with this technique. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called ACPony12. It says, "I don't get how they think spamming you constantly when you clearly don't want their business would help them. If anything, it'll hurt them if word got out about who they are and how they handle business. It will deter future clients." You know, I was just talking about this yesterday with wifey because I get 2 to 3 Costco emails every day, and they don't make me want to go and spend my money at Costco. They make me want to shove those emails back down somebody's throat. Now, another way to handle this one is just to set up an email rule and have it forward every single one of those emails to every single email address for that company you can find on LinkedIn. Don't do that. This is not advice. This story comes to us from Clage929, Q, the school counselor. I'm a high school teacher and taught, among other subjects, politics at my previous school. We were briefed over and over again to be on the lookout for any sign that a student might be in psychological distress. While I do understand that it is part of my job, I was always shaking my head in disbelief when we were given the list of possible symptoms: mood swings, irritability, lack of interest in schools, underperformance, changes in interests, etc. Since I work with teenagers, that list applies to about 90% of them, so obviously that list wasn't any help. At the time, I had a very provocative student who was 2 grades behind and who was just smug as heck. He always spent an unnerving amount of his potential trying to push his teacher's boundaries and see how far he could go. Luckily, I'm not that easy to anger, and always try not to play into students' hands by doing exactly what they want me to do. So if I notice that somebody tries to anger me, I give my best to speak even more calmly, etc. When I was grading a test in politics, I noticed that he hadn't filled out a question, probably because he was once more oblivious to the answer. Instead, he had used his time during the test to draw a little sketch made out of stick figures. One stick figure, labeled as me, had its hand on a lever up on a risen platform with a gallows. The stick figure with the head in the noose was labeled with his own name. At the feet of the gallows, the rest of the class was protesting with signs saying stop or don't do it. I thought about what comment I might write next to it when I remembered the training we were given over and over again. Obviously, this student was in distress. So I contacted the school psychologist and mentioned the disquieting sketch on the test. 2 days later, during my lesson, there was a knock on my door. It was the school counselor who came to get the student for a psychological assessment. The sour look he gave me when he came back was marvelous. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Kinsfire. It says, perhaps remind him that other schools have taken such things as threats, and often the student in question gets a nice sit down with psychologists connected strongly to the police. Not that you do any such thing, sarcasm, of course, but you're just warning him that other teachers might. You know, with what's coming up in the news every day about things happening in various schools, I don't think we can take any of this lightly. Something like that definitely needs to be dealt with, and I'm glad that OP sent this kid down to the psychologist to have them take a look in their head. This story comes to us from 2 Screens, 1 PC. Strict adherence to contract backfires beautifully. Had to share this gem of a story from a few years back when I was contracting with a tech firm. Get your popcorn, because this one's a treat. Enter Mr. Grayson, the firm's new operations head. Now, this guy had a reputation for being a stickler for rules, often to the point of absurdity. Shortly after his arrival, contractors like myself were handed these freshly inked contracts. It was verbose to say the least, but one clause stood out. All contractors shall adhere strictly to the tasks outlined in their contract. Any deviation will result in immediate termination. This was Mr. Grayson's baby, his attempt to ensure we stayed in our designated lanes. For context, the firm had a history of collaborative environment. Developers would occasionally assist with design queries, and designers, like me, would sometimes offer input on usability to the developers. But Grayson, oh, he wanted none of that cross-departmental nonsense. Now on to the Malicious Compliance. A big project was on the horizon, and midway, the development team hit a snag. They identified a design flaw, something my team could have fixed in an hour or two. However, helping them wasn't in my contract. So I sat back, sipped my coffee, and watched the drama unfold. The developers, bound by their contracts, spent days trying to engineer their way around a problem that wasn't theirs to solve. The project timeline got stretched, costs increased, and frustrations bubbled. The climax? A big meeting with higher-ups where Grayson had to explain the delays. When the design flaw was brought up, all eyes turned to me. I simply slid a copy of my contract across the table and highlighted the strict adherence clause. I recalled the deafening silence in the room, broken only by Grayson's stammering. In the aftermath, Grayson's strict contract idea was trashed. Collaboration resumed, the project got back on track, and our dear Mr. Grayson, he was reassigned to a different department, far away from meddling with contracts. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Matraxis. It says, "It's like I tell my people, the only way to change an asinine procedure is to follow it to the letter and let the world burn. If you go against it and do the sensible thing, not only are you opening yourself up to an error, but you are hiding the real error at the same time." Some people like to go above and beyond and do things that just aren't in their job description. And I understand that if you want to move up in a company, you want to show them that you're capable. But in a case like this where you're getting no recognition for those extra things you're doing, or you're not getting extra pay for those things you're doing, why do it? Sit back, do the things you were hired to do, and, like the commenter said, let the world burn. This story comes to us from 190 Pairs of Panties. Tale as old as time, don't touch my things, and I won't touch yours. So after college, I ended up living with 2 friends from school in a family-owned house near the school. One of them brought in one of her coworkers, Ashley, to stay for 3 months while she finished out a contract. There was a lease agreement for the main two friends. They knew my cousin and knew he was the landlord, and everything had been fine for over a year before Ashley came along. Ashley signed an agreement with him as well for the 3 months. We did agree not to share the family connection with Ashley though, in case she was a problem and tried to use it against us, or as an excuse to be a slob and not pay. Ashley seemed okay for the first couple days, mostly settling in and getting used to the house and how it ran. I had offered to make a roast dinner for everyone and was in the process of cooking it when Ashley noticed me use her bottle of Palmolive on accident and asked me why I'd used hers instead of my own. It was sitting right next to mine and a little more empty. Weird. But I apologized for the mistake, took a rubber band from the junk drawer and put it on the neck of my bottle so it wouldn't happen again, and assumed that was that. That was not that. Ashley then informed the roommates that she'd seen me using her salt and pepper on the table on a couple occasions, the cardboard dollar store sets for picnics, and asked them if I always took all their stuff without asking, and if I was always this way. They said no, and Ashley said they were clearly just too spineless to speak up for themselves. She turned to me and said, "I won't put up with this sort of nonsense. I don't want anyone else using anything of mine just because it's sitting out. I will not be having this conversation again. Do not touch anything of mine or else." I can feel my pulse in my teeth. I understand completely, Ashley. I'm really sorry if you feel that way, but I think your way is the best way forward. No more using one another's things at all, right? Right. Well, the kettle, coffee makers, toaster, and microwave are all mine. Ditto for all the pots and pans, flatware, and plates in these cupboards and drawers. The big TV in the main room and the consoles are mine as well. All the bedding on your bed is also mine. I'll thank you to put it in the wash immediately. I think she thought I was joking. I was not. I was going to tell her no roast beef or Yorkshire pudding for you, but she opted not to join us for the welcome dinner on her own. The next morning, as soon as she was gone to work, I rearranged my things in the kitchen, put everything of mine into the walk-in pantry, and put a locking knob on it. I took the remotes and controllers for my big TV and kept them locked in my room. I took the bedding and lamps of mine out of her room. Extra receiver for satellite? Nope, just the 3 we already have, and it's my account anyhow. Wi-Fi password? Sorry, that's mine as well. Ashley complained bitterly. She insisted it was illegal for me to deprive her of the microwave, internet, and TV in her lease. Nope. That thing just said that a fridge, stove, dishwasher, washer, and dryer were available for use. Oh, and by the way, the laundry drying rack is mine as well. And stop using my detergent pellets. It was a rough 2 months. Ashley ended up leaving early to move in with a boyfriend. She made a big theatrical threat on her way out that she was talking to the landlord and was going to get us all kicked out. It was then that I informed her he was family. She looked like a balloon full of raspberry jam at that revelation, and we never saw her again. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Alan Cake. It says, "Did she try to walk it back at all and apologize, or did she just complain? Very well executed." OP responded to this one and said she didn't apologize aside from a sarcastic sorry right in the beginning. Not that it would have changed much even if it sounded genuine. I wouldn't have backed down on anything at that point in my life. Laugh out loud. I know all about that particular sorry. It's the one I get from my kids. You know, my 5-year-old, my 7-year-old, my 11-year-old, and sometimes my 18-year-old. Sorry. It means, I know you want me to say sorry, but I really don't want to, so I'm gonna make it sound as insincere as possible. OP, I love the level of pettiness you went to in this one. I mean, she really only needs to have what was in the lease, the stuff that is required by law, so if you're providing that, I don't see the problem.